Welcome to Martha Runs the World, a podcast with a new take on running, fitness, and all things health-oriented. I'm Martha Hughes, your host, and each week I present a new topic that is of interest to all runners. Hi, and welcome to episode 279 of Martha Runs the World. When the weather starts heating up and summer is just around the corner, I believe it's the perfect time to go over hydration basics. Dehydration can happen to all runners if they don't take precautions beforehand. And here are some of the signs to look for. Feeling thirsty means you're probably already dehydrated. However, there are some people who believe that's not true, so we'll go over that in a little while. Some of the symptoms could include you're fatigued, you have dry eyes or dry mouth, cramps, GI distress, headaches, confusion, muscle spasms, the feeling that exercise is much harder than it usually is, lethargy, and dark-colored urine. It's important to replace fluids lost through sweat while exercising. When dehydrated, your mind and body cannot function at their best. Your body will show the symptoms when dehydrated, such as listed above. Fluids keep your body hydrated. Without them, your body won't function at its best. If you don't drink enough fluid, your body temperature and heart rate may rise. When the total amount of water in your body is below the normal level, your body cannot properly regulate heat, and that's called hypohydration. Your body may feel more fatigued than usual. Your body may not be able to think clearly. Your motor control, decision-making abilities, and concentration may be impaired. Your body's function may slow down, and that includes gastric emptying, so you may feel uncomfortable in your stomach. I think that may cause a lot of stomach problems and long races or long trail runs. Your performance in sport or exercise may not be as good as it could be. The impact is even worse when you're active and dehydrated in hot conditions. Now, the simple solution is, of course, to drink enough fluids when you exercise. Make fluid replacement a priority when you physically are active. Drinking enough fluids will help maintain your concentration and performance and increase your endurance and prevent excessive elevations in heart rate and body temperature. It's all about sufficient hydration. And here's some more things. As a guide, you probably need more fluid if you sweat heavily, you have certain medical conditions such as diabetes or heart disease, you have cystic fibrosis, which means you also have a high concentration of sodium in your sweat. You are using a medication that could act as a diuretic, causing your body to lose more fluid. You have a bigger body size. You are fit, and people who are fit tend to sweat more. You are doing You are doing vigorous exercise, and you are active in hot or humid conditions. And the thing with humidity is you may not seem to be sweating more, but you really are. Because once you step out of the door in humid conditions, you're soaked. Don't be fooled. You do need more fluid. And I say fluid because it may not just be water, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Don't just drink water, and like I said, I will talk about that in just a few minutes. How much should I drink during a run? Most runners sweat between 400 to 2,400 milliliters per hour of exercise, with the average value being around 1,200 milliliters per hour. However, these figures will vary dependent on your age, sex, weight, exercise intensity, and the environmental temperatures. A good way of measuring your individual fluid loss on the run is by doing an at-home sweat test. Weigh yourself in the nude before a run, then run at race pace for 1 hour, then weigh yourself after the run. Make sure you go for a pee before weighing yourself and towel off any sweat before weighing yourself again afterwards. Subtract your post-run weight from your pre-run and convert to milliliters. Rule of thumb is 1 gram equals 1 milliliter. That's roughly how much fluid you've lost. It's a test that's been around for a long time, and it still works pretty well. So once you've worked out how much fluid you've lost, should you aim to replace that on the run? You don't need to replace that amount while you're running, but it is encouraged that you replace that within 1.5 hours to 2 hours after finishing. That's why recovery is so important. However, if you're running for over an hour, it's still important to hydrate as you go. But again, the amount you aim for will depend on a number of factors. For example, some people drink much less than others in their day-to-day life. The general rule of thumb appears to be a minimum of 50 milliliters every 20 minutes up to 250 milliliters every 20 minutes. That's taking a few gulps of water every 20 minutes, which is pretty easy. If you can get more down, that's fine, but too much may cause bloating and tummy troubles. If you are dehydrated more than 10%, you'll be unable to exercise. Death occurs if your hydration levels are 20% or greater, and it's impossible to get to that point because you'll be dead. Sorry, it's not really funny, but it, kind of funny to think about it. However, you don't need to drink water continually for 12 to 24 hours before your race or long run. Overdrinking will result in more trips to the porta potty or maybe a loss in electrolytes. And it's a good rule of thumb to drink your fluids the day before your race. That way you don't have to worry about it that morning, because a lot of people don't think about it the day before their race, but that's the time when you want to hydrate properly, which makes it hard if you're traveling to a race, but I talk about that in a prior episode when I talk about traveling to your race. I'll put a link up for the show in the website, MarthaRunsTheWorld.com. Is it possible to overhydrate? Yes, if you're only drinking water, it can be very dangerous to overhydrate. In some cases, if you're not keeping up your sodium levels, it's far likely to happen, and it can be dangerous. Symptoms of overhydration include a sloshing around in your stomach, which indicates that you're not absorbing fluid very well, nausea, vomiting, and dizziness. In more serious cases, you may not be able to think clearly, and eventually you will collapse. The bottom line, listen to your body, get to know what works for you, and be diligent about keeping on top of your fluid and electrolyte intake. But it can get worse. Hyponatremia is excessive consumption of pure water during long runs or a long race, and it involves disorientation, confusion, seizure, and possible coma. How to avoid it? In theory, avoiding EAH, excessive associated hyponatremia, is pretty straightforward. You just have to avoid drinking more than you sweat and pee out so that severe dilution of blood does not occur. For a while, some experts, notably Dr. Tim Noakes in his book, The Lore of Running, which I did a whole episode about, with many others following his lead, have been advocating just drink water to thirst approach for this very reason. And that's what I talk about, is that when you're thirsty, drink. And some people, there's this tug of war. Some people say if you're thirsty, you're already dehydrated. Well, you might be a little dehydrated, but other people say you should wait until you're thirsty to drink. So you have to be the balance of that. If you determine that you don't want to wait until you're thirsty to drink, then drink ahead of time, but make sure you have a balancing act with your electrolytes, because you don't want to be out of sync with your electrolytes. So you have to choose what's best for yourself, really. When healthy people drink water purely to the dictates of thirst during exercise, it has been demonstrated time and again that they don't tend to take in more than they sweat out, and as a result, become gradually dehydrated, making EAH all but impossible. Right, but they're dehydrated. So, like I said, you have to find this balancing act for yourself. Maybe a little dehydration is okay, as long as you watch that and in recovery make up for that loss of fluid. Excessive EAH is a fluid electrolyte disorder caused by a decrease in sodium levels during or up to 24 hours after prolonged physical activity. This disorder can develop when marathon runners or endurance event athletes drink more fluid, usually water or sports drinks, than their kidneys can excrete. I'm having a hard time with these long words. This excess water can severely dilute the level of sodium in the blood needed for organs, especially the brain, to function properly. The incidence of EAH in athletes has increased in recent years, especially in the U.S., as marathon races and endurance events have become more popular. A recent study, well, it's not recent anymore, but a study showed 13% of the Boston 2002 marathon runners experienced EAH. Most cases were mild. Now, 8 deaths from EAH have been documented since 1985. So not many, still 8 deaths. Here are some more words on Dr. Tim Noakes' theory: just drink water to thirst. If you're thirsty, just drink, or wait till you're thirsty to drink water. The strategy of just drink water to thirst is often backed up with evidence to support the fact that mild dehydration does not necessarily negatively impact performance. Now, that's mild dehydration. That's not really bad dehydration. And there's a fine line there. You have to watch that. However, this approach leaves athletes to train or compete for any event or any length or intensity in all conditions with nothing more than this relatively vague statement to guide their entire hydration strategy. It also ignores the valuable contribution of supplementing fluid intake with additional sodium to help aid retention, maintain blood sodium levels, and replace some of that lost in sweat. At a certain point, the usefulness of drink to thirst guidelines effectively ends. At that point, it's probably when you're exercising for more than 2 hours, assuming you began well hydrated. And this is true. This is when you have to really use your own judgment to begin supplementing with electrolytes and sodium amounts. And you may not be able to because you're in a long race, and sometimes your brain doesn't work as well as it does normally. I know, I've been in those long races, and I know that your thinking kind of goes off a little bit, especially if you're dehydrated. It's a fine line. It really is. So I'm not sure if Dr. Noakes thought about that when he was developing that theory. Now, the role of sodium supplementation. It has long been known that taking sodium in with drinks increases fluid retention in the bloodstream. Also, sweat contains a relatively large amount of sodium in it, so when sweat output is high, the net loss of sodium can be substantial. Sodium is a finite resource in the body, and as a result, supplementation can help to maintain blood sodium levels much better than drinking water alone, especially at times when sweat losses are high. Sodium supplementation helps reduce the rate of dilution that goes on in the bloodstream when compared to just taking water alone. This was shown very neatly in a 2015 study when triathletes were given extra sodium supplements or a placebo pill to take alongside regular sports drinks during a half Ironman race in hot weather. The extra sodium group replaced about 71% of their sodium losses during the event, with the placebo group only replacing 20%. The results showed better maintenance of blood volume, higher blood sodium levels of post-race, and faster finishing times in the sodium group than those taking the placebo. So even with sports drinks, they still needed sodium pills. So they don't actually make sodium pills too much anymore. They do have electrolyte pills, which work actually better, I think, because they add a few other things into them. And I always have a couple electrolyte pills with me that I can just munch on. They're chewable, so I always take those with me. Even on smaller little runs, I have my running vest. And even on smaller runs, especially warm weather, I'll always take those with me in case I need them, because I have needed those even on 5-mile runs. it's a good idea that if you're running 5 or 6 miles or longer, that you take some kind of either chewable electrolyte pills, electrolyte mix like Nun Tab or Hammerheed or Tailwind or something with you. Or you take pretzels or goo or some kind of food with you to get in your system along with water. Don't just take water with you. I don't care if you don't think that's a very long distance that you can get by because you're not sure how your body is going to react that day. You really do need something. Even if you're fasting, quote unquote fasting, starving, you need something in your system. You really do. We're not superhuman. We're not invincible. We do need something to replace what we're putting out on our system. When we lose fluid, we also lose electrolytes, the main one being sodium. And so maintaining a good sodium balance is crucial, especially with the weather warming up. It's really important. The average person loses about 800 milligrams of sodium, 195 milligrams of potassium, 20 milligrams of calcium, and 10 milligrams of magnesium per hour. And you should try at least replacing at least half of those losses during runs that are an hour or longer. However, the sodium content of sweat also varies substantially from 115 milligrams to greater than 2,000 milligrams per liter of sweat, so it's very much individual. The easiest way to work out how much sodium you're losing when you sweat is to do a sweat test, and you can understand how your body responds, and I already talked about that earlier in this episode. I know when I sweat, I lose a lot of salt, and you can tell how much salt if you wear a baseball cap like I do and you see the white lines, that's salt. Or if animals like dogs go up to your legs and lick them after you've run, you know that they're licking the salt. So you know you've lost salt. You have stray animals coming up, licking your legs. You've lost salt. So that's another sign that you can find out. So it's really, really important to replace salt and replace the sodium. And that's one way to do it is through electrolytes. It's very important. And you consume them via various sports nutrition products. There's tons of them out there. And if you don't want to spend the money, you don't have to. You can do real foods. You can do salted peanuts, pretzels, potato chips. They have those little individual bags of potato chips. Take those with you, corn chips, whatever you want. You don't have to eat healthy. We're runners. We'll burn off the calories, right? You can take any of those with you. You can take, one of my favorite foods is you can take dates and stuff them with peanut butter. That's really good, by the way. Very, very tasty. You can do that. You can do any kind of thing like that. Hammerheed. Tailwind is a really nice replacement for things, and it gives you 100 calories. All these kind of things will help you with your electrolyte replacement and keep you going and keep you healthy. All right, so this should give you some information for your fluid replacement and keep you going and keep your runs fabulous during our summer running season. And I'm going to do a whole episode on hot weather running. I did one when I started out many years ago, but I think it's time to do an update. So I'll do that in a couple weeks. So stay tuned for that. Now, I'm going to talk to you about my runs this weekend. Wow. They were awesome. I had mentioned that I didn't really have much of a running mojo. I've been kind of meh about my running. I would have okay runs, and I wasn't really excited about my running. Now, I understand that not everyone is going to be great, and there are going to be off times when running isn't going to be the best, and when I'm not going to feel like my running is great. And I understand that. That's all part of being a runner. But I just wasn't feeling it. I tried to get back into the groove of things and tried to get back into running, and I wasn't excited about it at all. I felt bad. I felt depressed. I felt really sad about why couldn't I feel happy about my running like I did before. I know I just started back into running in March, so it hasn't been that long. But I just wanted some kind of happiness, some kind of excitement to pop my running, to make me feel like, yeah, this is why I run. This is why I do this. And I was just waiting, and it never came, and it didn't. And then this weekend happened, and I finally feel joy in running. Yes, I went for a 6.5 mile run and hike. I did a lot of hiking in between. Trail run in the Presidio. It wasn't the best weather. I was thinking about going up to the headlands, but Beta Breakers happened Sunday, and this was on a Saturday, but all the buses were all messed up, so I couldn't get a bus up when I wanted to up to the headlands, so I decided to go to the Presidio. It was easier, so I did that. So I stayed in San Francisco, and it was just really fun. Everything felt great. Everything just clicked, and it was so much fun, and just the whole time I was smiling, and I just had a really good time. It was a hard run. I didn't make it easy. And it was longer, 6.5 miles. I haven't done 6.5 miles since before my fall in last December. And I just felt really good. Everything just fell into place. I don't like the word fell, but everything just got into place and just felt great. And I said, yes, this is the kind of run I want. This is what I need. And so I said, okay, well, is this a one-off? Is this just something that I'm going to go back and not feeling good about my next run? So I went home and I went out the next day and did a recovery run of 3 miles, and it felt great again. My recovery felt excellent. I wasn't sore. I did just a 3 miler, about half of the distance that I did the day before, and it felt really nice. I wasn't tired. I wasn't sore. I just felt really nice. And I think that it's just back. It's back. So today, I'm doing this episode a little late, but I'm getting it done. I know that I'm back into it. So my training for my fall races and my big race next February, my training begins today. And now I'm going to take my training seriously. I'm back into it. I have the excitement. I have the joy. I have the motivation I need. Now all I have to do is the hard work. So the hard work begins now. I have this excitement that I haven't had since last year. I really do. I haven't felt this happiness about running in a long time. And I know if I've had it for a couple days, I know this is real. This isn't just like, this is going to go away and I'm going to feel depressed again. No. This is real. This is the real thing. And it's back, and I'm back. So yay, I am back. I am so happy. And I'll tell you one thing. If it wasn't for my little podcast and it wasn't for you wonderful listeners, which I love you folks. I really do. If it wasn't for you all, I wouldn't be here. I probably wouldn't have cared, and I would have given up on running. You folks have kept me on the ball. You have kept me going. You've kept my love for running real. Because I do this for you. I put this out every single week. I have never missed a week. In over 5 years of doing this, I have never missed 1 week of putting out a show. And I do this for you. I do this for love of running. But if I didn't have the love, if the love wasn't there, even at the times where I was depressed and not motivated and didn't care about running so much, the love was buried inside. It was there. But it wasn't for you and my show, I probably would have stopped. But I didn't stop, and I'm here, and we're here, and sorry for the rant. I have a lot of emotions right now, and I'm very happy. I have a lot of happy emotions, a lot of very happy emotions going on right now. So I promise I won't rant like this again. For a while, anyway. Let's just put it that way. For a while. All right. So that is it. I have some great shows coming up. And as always, I thank you so much for being a part of my life. I really do. You guys are the best. You really are. And thank you very much. And I hope you guys have excellent runs coming up. The website is martharunstheworld.com. If you want to email me, it's martharunstheworld@gmail.com. And until next week, let's tie up our shoelaces and go for a run.